Artificial intelligence is no longer just a Silicon Valley debate. It's becoming part of Africa's creative revolution. In Nigeria, filmmakers and digital artists are experimenting with AI tools to create films, archive disappearing oral histories, and imagine new African futures. And with me, Obinna Okerekeocha, founder of Naija Artificial Intelligence Film Festival, and filmmaker Malik Afegbua, using AI to preserve fading oral traditions by creating digital archives. And they are both here in Paris for the Nollywood Week Film Festival. Welcome both. So first, Obinna, isn't it AI a threat to filmmakers?
No, I don't think it's a threat to filmmakers. I think it's actually a big help. It's a big, a big shot in the arm for filmmakers. I think it's a technology that's going to help a lot of filmmakers achieve their end. What do I mean by this? Traditional filmmaking by itself is expensive, and sometimes you don't have all the tools to make, tell the stories that you want. But AI provides the opportunity for storytellers who are disenfranchised by economic pressures to now tell the stories they wanted to tell. So I think it's a great time especially for those of us in Global South, to tell the stories we've always wanted to tell, and AI provides that opportunity.
And Malik, you use AI in your work. How and why?
Well, in many different ways, because now, for the first time, like he said, we could tell the stories like we want to tell. But beyond even telling stories, we could, reimagine our histories, recreate our histories that have been lost to us. Show the next generation what our architecture, cultures, tradition used to be, but in a way that we actually understand. So it's giving us the tool, it's giving us the way that we could make our future better than the past that we've been before. And in film, we could, do previous, see our film before we even film it, save money, make mistakes and all of that. So it's a great time for us to be alive, so I'm really excited.
But your use of AI hasn't always been well received, isn't it?
Yeah, initially, because the first project that I did was called the Elder Series, where I put all the people on the fashion runway. But artists used to come to me and say, doing the wrong thing, stealing artist work. But I've been an artist for over 20 years, so that's just me going on to the next level. AI could be used in many different ways. And I always tell people that it could be a blank canvas, that you train your own data sets to use your own data to create something entirely new. You don't have to scrape data to use that and create something that is not there or anything, but you could actually make it your extension of the work that you do already. But the people that were hating on my work in the past are now lovers of my work. So it just took time for them to understand that, okay, this technology can actually be used for good.
Time for acceptance. So what do you think of the Oscars excluding AI-generated content?
I think it's an interesting situation, because I think there is a lack of clarity in what it can do. But I also understand it, because, you see that AI has been trained on a lot of data sets that, it was built on the back of so many, years of work, by producers, directors, etc., that kind of thing. So I feel it's something that will probably change in the near future. I think that for now, it's almost, I can say it's a political move, if you ask me, But I think as the technology becomes very ubiquitous, as they begin to use it in different, from VFX for all sorts of, workflows, I think that situation will change. That's what I think. Yeah.
I have a question for you both. So Nollywood is known for its creativity. So how do you think AI will be changing the way we make films?
I mean, in the past, we were limited to the locations that we had. Mm-hmm. We were limited to stories we could tell, because we could not really afford or to build certain expensive sets like the Hollywood used to do. But today we have AI that could create set extensions for us, create VFX for us, create worlds that we never even thought we could create, based on the fact that now the access to it and to use it is a lot lower than what it used to be. So in the past that you could spend 100 million, today you could be spending $20,000. And you could imagine literally anything and have any stories created. So we're not using AI to replace the story. We're adding it to it as a combination, as a hybrid production, to make it even better than it was before. So it's a good place.
And that's what you've been doing in your work.
Exactly.
Tell us a bit about
yes, so I've worked in a few films in Nollywood and Hollywood as well, using AI, to enhance the workflow from pre-production to post-production, from pre-visualization to actually VFX and set extension. And it's been great, and it's growing as well. So I'm even also training other directors, creatives, to know how to access and approach technology, because if you understand how to approach it, that's the best way to use it.
And also to use it to get to reconcile the history, or oral history as well?
Of Africa, because you know how we've been perceived is always about bad news or some history that has been lost or some history that has been, I don't want to really go into most of the history, but now we can correct the bias, correct the misrepresentation for the first time, and know that we can actually tell stories that has never been told before and reimagine histories and futures of Africans with confidence, and we can own our own stories from our point of view and make sure that when we're represented in the world, it's only for positive things and not the negative things. Yeah.
And Obinna, you founded the Niger Artificial Intelligence Film Festival. So does it mean there's a big appetite or at least a great interest for AI?
Yes, it is a great interest for AI. And what I would say is, for me, the vision behind this festival is because I asked myself a question last year, like, what is the future of African storytelling? And for me, the future of African storytelling is at the intersection of art and technology. So basically, what we've been able to do is to empower people who had stories to tell but didn't have the means to tell those stories, to bring them together to celebrate the very best of, imagination, because at the end of the day, AI is a tool. The question is, what kind of stories are we telling? Just like Malik has said, we need now use AI to tell stories about our continent, the things that matter to us, paint this picture of what we want, of the real Africa, and what we want Africa to look like. So for me, that was a challenge. That was the vision, and we brought that to life for the festival.
But there's also the question of maybe the danger of what's being fed into AI's generation in terms of narrative about Africa.
Oh yes. So the thing about it is that it's a bit of a journey, because if you look at we had a panel session today, and only about 3%, a very, very minimal percent has been of African content, African data has been used to train these models that are, from the West or from the East in China, as we know it. But what is important is that we, beyond just talking about it, I think that Africans, from the private sector and the public sector, need to now come to build models, train models, invest time in building data centers, because at the end of the day, these things cost money. Whether, when you get data sets, you have to clean them up, you have to tag them properly, and we not have to have the back-end infrastructure to make it work. So it's a bit of it has to be done with intentional purpose, something that is done with a lot of investment and infrastructure. That's how we get it done.
I think some people might be afraid of is the fact is technology can really preserve the emotional depth of a movie or spirituality of oral storytelling, for example.
I mean, the story belongs to the person telling it, and not the AI. AI is just a tool. So if the human has that experience, that history, that knowledge, that emotion is already in that story. So AI just enhances and puts that story to life. The same way you have a camera, or the same way you have a pen to write it, or a microphone to sing, the same way AI is a tool, to just a medium to tell that story. So the storyteller has a responsibility to have that emotion and not the AI system. And that's the mistake a lot of people make, thinking that AI is the one that tells that story. No, you could never replace the human factor. You can never replace the human experience and emotions. So that's the misconception, but we always like to correct that misconception, saying it's the storyteller that matters, not the, not the machine. Yeah.
And we could go on and on and on about talking about AI. Thank you very much, Obinna and Malik, for being with us. And to conclude this edition of Eye on Africa, thank you for watching.